Julia here. Today is a very exciting day. From the title of this video, you can probably guess, today is Missing Her's 1-year anniversary. I cannot believe how time has flown. I remember last year when I was preparing to head off to college and I was still studying for APs and finals, and amidst all of that chaos, I decided to release my second novel. It was crazy, it was chaotic, but overall I am so glad that I was able to get that book out before I went to college. It was so much fun having something to talk about and work on amidst all of the chaos of high school and everything, and it really helped take my mind off of all the heavy schoolwork that I had to do. But now that it is Missing Her's 1-year anniversary, it is time to bring back something that I started for the Scavenger's 2-year anniversary, and that is the series Gettin' Real with. So, in case you forgot, for the Scavenger, I had a list of questions that I asked to kind of bring about the highs and the lows of writing, publishing, and all that good stuff to do with the Scavenger. Now, I'm going to do the same with Missing Her. So without further ado, let's jump into it. The first question for the Gettin' Real with series is, where did the idea come from? Now, Missing Her actually came from a couple of different sources that I actually kind of combined into one book. So the first way that Missing Her kind of started was from a short story that ended up being the prologue for Missing Her. It started with a mother with these children in their car, and they were playing this game, and as the story went along, you realized that they were actually getting chased by cops, and it wasn't just a fun game they were playing. For some reason, the mother was hiding the children from the police, and that eventually, as I started asking questions, became the baseline for the story of Missing Her. The second idea that I had was there was this book I read a while back called The Phantom Effect, and it took the idea of a murderer and had the murderer relive his crimes through the eyes of his victims. And I loved how they took that popular murderer idea and concept and kind of twisted it and turned it on its head. So those were the two concepts that I kind of put into Missing Her. I had this awesome short story that I felt like had a lot of potential, and then I wanted to take the missing person story and kind of put a twist on it, just like I had seen Phantom Effect do with murderers, if that makes sense. The second question I had is, what was the worst part of the process? Now, I did say that the Missing Her release was a lot of fun and something to focus on, but it was also extremely stressful. There was one week where I had the launch of Missing Her, I had a couple of AP tests, I had a final to study for, and at the same time I was actually in Tech Week for a show. So that week was just so crazy and so chaotic. I had absolutely no free time, and I remember saying to myself, if I could get through this week, I could get through anything. And luckily I got through the week and everything surprisingly went really well. And I've kept that in my heart, and whenever something really difficult comes along, I'll say to myself, yes, this is a really hard thing I need to do, but remember that time that I made it through that crazy week where I was having a breakdown a day? We can do anything. The next thing is a funny story that came from Missing Her. This one is actually really funny, and this actually shows how awesome my beta readers are. When I was in the process of writing Missing Her, there's this one scene where there's this guy named Tony. I needed a backstory for Tony where he got his mom angry. So there's this one scene where Tony's sister Jackie is talking to him, and Jackie says to Tony, I haven't seen our mom this angry since that time you ate a whole plate of lasagna. That was the original line. And I thought it was funny. I was like, okay, great. Like, that shows how kind of quirky Jackie is, but at the same time, it shows how funny Tony is, and he's a teenager, loves to eat, perfect. But as I was doing my beta reader rounds, one of my very close beta readers named Emma, she said to me, that doesn't work. She said, a whole lasagna is like 2,000 or 3,000 calories. And she said a lasagna is baked and then put right out because it's hot. So there's no way that he would be able to eat a whole lasagna like before family came over, because that's not how you cook a lasagna. And I was like, you know what, you're like, that's right, that's totally right, like it doesn't work for that. And I ended up changing it to another food that it made sense for Tony to eat within a certain period of time. I didn't know this, but apparently Emma told that story to her family because they're Italians as well, and it's like an inside joke now that whenever they make lasagna, they'll be like, oh, make sure you don't eat the whole thing before the family comes over. So I was like, you know what? I am glad that missing her had such a big impact on their family because that is very funny, and it's kind of an inside joke between me and Emma now that we talk about eating an entire lasagna. Next up is my favorite scene to write. Now, I kind of mentioned this character Tony, which you'll meet him later on throughout Missing Her, but honestly, his introduction was so much fun to write. This is gonna include some spoilers for Missing Her, so if you haven't read the book, I'm gonna put a timestamp down here and you can skip ahead to a later question so I don't spoil anything for you. But the introduction to Tony was so much fun. I knew I wanted to have that moment where the reader, after you're done working through Eliza's mind, the reader's like, okay, like, you're not even halfway done the book yet. What is gonna come next? Like, that's kind of the whole plot point, so where's the story going? And I wanted to have that moment. There's something that Vanessa sees that gives off the hint that something is wrong. So she sees the liberal arts textbook. She realizes she's not in Eliza's room anymore. She sees the scruffy beard, she sees the Adam's apple, and eventually she comes to the realization, not only is she in another body, she's a guy. And I remember that was such a cool like twist on things, because not only are you saying to yourself, wait a minute, now she's a completely different person that she has no idea who this is, but also she's a guy. I had a lot of fun writing it, so yeah, that was my favorite scene to write. The next question is, what was your least favorite scene to write? This one's pretty easy. The scene where they're all trapped and they're all four of them are tied up and Harding is there like talking to them, and it's good because I know a lot of people were really freaked out and disturbed by that scene, but to be honest, for me having to write that scene, I was also freaked out and disturbed even though I knew it was gonna happen. I actually didn't like to go over it and edit it because I was just like, I felt so strongly for these characters and it really like disturbed me and like made me uneasy to have to create and write this just crazy character that would go and abduct these children. Like, I had to come up with that, and that disturbed me that I could come up with that and write that character. In the end, it's actually one of the scenes that I'm most proud of, and it was really rewarding to see it come to fruition, but at the same time, like, that was hard for me to write. Last but not least, my best memory from Missing Her. This was actually really funny, and it took me a while to get to this point, but when I was first writing Missing Her, I thought that I was the worst mystery writer ever. As I was writing this, I was thinking to myself, this is so predictable. Everyone is gonna know what happens. Like 20 pages in, they're gonna make the connection and be like, oh, this is easy. I know what's gonna happen. And I was terrified that I was spending all this time on this story and then people would get 20 pages in and know what was gonna happen. But when I gave it to my parents and they said that they had no idea what was coming and they were on the edge of their seat the whole time, I was like, okay, maybe I have something, like maybe it's a possibility, but maybe they're just being my parents. Let's see how someone in the actual young adult community views this story who's kind of used to reading mysteries. It wasn't until I got to the first or second or even third beta reader round and people were telling me that they had no idea what was gonna happen next and they were on the edge of their seat, that was where I got really excited and I said, okay, I'm not crazy. I actually wrote like a solid mystery that people are excited about. Now, there are some people who are very good at predicting and they are able to see some of the twists and turns that come. That's always going to happen. But overall, I'm really, really proud of myself because I've never done mystery before and it was really hard to balance all of those aspects. But yeah, my favorite memory was finding out that I did not write a predictable mystery because that was something I was very, very stressed about. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about my second novel, Missing Her. It's crazy that this thing has already been out in the world for a year. If you haven't heard, Missing Her is actually in the process of getting pitched to movie companies to possibly be adapted to screen. Now, obviously, because of the current situation in the world, that's kind of been put on hold for a bit, but it's crazy to think that in a few years, Missing Her could actually be like on a screen. That's crazy to me. Again, nothing might happen from pitching it to different companies, but at the same time, the possibility of that is there, and that makes me really excited, and I'm really proud of this book. If you guys have any questions about Missing Her, please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to talk more about it. I'm very proud of this book, and it's just been a great experience writing and promoting and talking about it. Thank you guys for stopping by. Bye!